Hello? You play to win the game.
I mean, listen, we're talking about practice, not a game.
What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, Thomas Terry, alongside with,
David Castaneda.
Giancarlo Cacho.
and we are coming from you virtually in our respective locations. I'm in the city of Dallas. Where are you guys?
The great city of San Antonio, that's what.
Houston, Texas, the greatest city in the world. Not the
Whoa!
best team, but the best city for sure.
I know it's the greatest city because we all know that title belongs to DTX, Dallas, Texas.
Oh, that'll be a hostile episode.
But look, guys, we just finished up with the NBA draft. Congratulations to Victor Wembanyama of France going to none other than the San Antonio Spurs. Rounding out the top five of that draft, you had Brandon Miller from the University of Alabama going to Charlotte. Scoot Henderson going from the G League Ignite to the Portland Trailblazers. And then the twin brothers, the first twin brothers to be selected back-to-back in the top five in NBA history. Amen Thompson going to the Rockets and Asir Thompson going to the Detroit Pistons. I mean, guys, how are we feeling about this draft, NBA draft that just happened?
I think it was pretty expected to see Wemby go first, and then the top five I think were expected. As a Houston Rockets fan, I'm glad we got a man, but I don't know. I think I don't want to start the episode off bad, but I was watching a couple videos of Wemby taking some jumpers in San Antonio, and wasn't looking too hot. He was it was close range for sure. The layups and the dunks, but that's expected. I just posted that on my Instagram story. No, but I'm happy. He was the right pick, but we'll just have to see what happens.
Look. The Spurs get A++ because it's destiny. It was history. It was written in the stars. It was written in the scrolls back in Egypt, man. It was destined that Victor Wembanyama would be a San Antonio Spur. You see the history of David Robinson and Tim Duncan with the number one picks in San Antonio. So I'm not worried. He went out there, just did some PR stuff, just showing the fans that he's in the new threads, just putting some shots up. The man's not worried about it. It's not serious. So none of that.
We all know that first overall pick should have gone to the Houston Rockets. The San Antonio Spurs had no business winning that one.
The Houston Rockets have no business being number one pick. That's a glorified AAU team. That's a glorified AAU team. Everyone's handling the rock. 10 dribbles, pass it. 10 dribbles, pass it. Man, but
glorified. It's crazy.
Glorified, man. I mean, the top AAU team I've ever seen in my life. But no disrespect.
I will ask this, though. Although Victor Wembanyama was the number one pick, what are the odds that he wins Rookie of the Year? And if it's not him, then who do you guys have winning Rookie of the Year?
I'll let David answer that one first.
As much as he's now a member of the Spurs and I can't like him as much as I used to, I think it'd be foolish to say that he's not going to win Rookie of the Year, barring any sort of injuries. With a guy like that at that stature, it kind of scares you a little bit. I mean, we saw it with Chet last year. So you kind of worry about the injuries, but if we're talking injuries aside, I think Wemby's the clear candidate. If not, I'd probably give it to Scoot Henderson for sure.
And then we also have to remember, too, I'm glad you said Chet, because with the player sustaining injury, just like Blake Griffin did in his rookie year, he came back the next year, and although he wasn't a part of that rookie class, he won Rookie of the Year. So that could very well happen with Chet Holmgren of the Oklahoma City Thunder, even though he was ineligible, just like Ben Simmons in recent history. He could put together a performance over the year to maybe take that award away from these guys in this class, 2023 class. Giancarlo, who do you have?
Yeah, that's a great point right there with Chet Holmgren. He's a really good player. I think I'll be honest, I forgot about him over the season because, injuries and just OKC is OKC, bro. They're just okay. So, you're not worried about Thunder. But with him coming back with Wembanyama and, everyone covered Wembanyama so closely. So we were able to see, how he warms up, how he trains, all that. We don't know how it is for some of the other top lottery picks, but the way that San Antonio is always taking care of their players. God willing, there's no injuries. I would suspect him to be rookie of the year. I mean, there were some people saying that some people that get paid more than me, higher up in the NBA and higher up in the sports media, saying that he could be an all-star pick. I'm not gonna go push it that forward because I mean we rarely see that. But Wembanyama and Chet Holmgren, I think, and Scoot Henderson, because Scoot is aggressive. I mean, Scoot plays aggressively. Even when the Spurs got the number one pick, Scoot said that he should still be the number one pick because he's a dog, and he's got that dog in him, and that he fights and he wants to play 1,000% every game. So, those three are my top for rookie of the year picks. As a Spurs fan, I'll be biased and say it's going to be Wembanyama, but you gotta respect everybody's dues. You gotta respect everybody's work, and I think Chet Holmgren and Scoot Henderson also have equal opportunities.
I'm gonna throw y'all a curveball here. For my pick, I'm actually gonna go with the number 8 pick to the Washington Wizards, Jarace Walker. Jarace Walker, he is a dynamic player from the University of Houston. David, I'm sure you probably know about him and everything.
Sure.
Super uber athletic player, big man who can really do it all. And especially there in Washington, where it's just going to be, I guess, nobody there to take up playing time, really. Well, no. I'm wrong. Jarace Walker, he was drafted by the Wizards, but he was traded to the Pacers for Bilal Coulibaly. So even still, I think that pick still works because there with Benedict Mathurin and everything, he's going to have a place to showcase his talents in that front court alongside Miles Turner. So still, it doesn't take away from his athletic ability and everything. I'm taking Jarace Walker, Rookie of the Year, 2023, Stafford.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's for sure a hot take, and I agree with you. And any other year, but I mean, we just talked about Wemby and Chet. Those are two guys that if one of those guys isn't going to win the Rookie of the Year, I really think the other guy will. And but I mean, yeah, it's not a bad take. I don't know. It's interesting for sure. It's gonna be interesting. He does have the chance to do it on the Pacers, though. The Pacers, like you said, the Pacers and the Wizards, they're pretty much the same team. They both suck. So any rookie's going to have a chance to shine on that team.
Yeah, and then talking about the Wizards, too, I don't think we've had a show since the trade broke down. Bradley Beal to the Phoenix Suns. I know, David, when we were on our show together, we were talking about the possibility of him being traded. But now he has been traded to the Phoenix Suns for Chris Paul. And then Chris Paul turned around and got traded. No, not Chris Paul, Jordan Poole. But Chris Paul from the Warriors, I mean, to the Suns, to the Warriors, guys.
I blew my mind.
Like, it left me speechless because does he fit the Warriors dynamic, the Warriors play style with Steve Kerr? We all remember, David, the infamous Chris Paul stare at Steve Kerr in the playoffs that year. I mean, can those two coexist?
I think they can. I really do think they can. Steve Kerr is such an old school, but yet still evolutionary coach that I think Chris Paul is the exact same way. Look at Chris Paul; he plays very like a traditional point guard, but has adapted and has been able to remain, possibly a hot take, a top 5 point guard in the league since he got into the league. And so I think they have a very good chemistry there. And I think the more interesting part is how we're going to see Steph Curry slide more into a 2-guard role for, I believe, the first time in his career. It should be interesting to watch, but I think they can make it work for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think they can make it work. The fact is that Chris Paul just wants to win. The man just wants a ring. So I think he's going to put all that, that stuff that we saw in the past aside. And obviously the meme with Steve Kerr in the past when he was on the Rockets, that was him being competitive. So, him and going against and talking mess with Steph Curry over the playoffs, that's all him just being competitive. Now that they're on the same team, it's going to be that competitive nature gelled together, and it's going to be really bad news for the rest of the NBA because Chris Paul, Steph Curry, and all them, and we don't know about Draymond Green yet, but that Warriors team looks strong, especially with Chris Paul having some possessions as the point guard.
Yeah, I like those. I like those takes and your analysis on that and everything. I think we saw it too. You remember when they traded for D'Angelo Russell? I think it could. D'Angelo Russell, although he didn't finish out the season there, he did kind of mesh well as an off-ball player, and then Stephen Curry can kind of play off the ball too, It's chasing him around screens is crazy. So being able to have Chris Paul kind of be the floor general and take away from Steph Curry having to exert his energy so much in the regular season and the playoffs and everything, keeping him fresh to do the type of Curry things that he does, unspeakable things, hitting shots from half court. I mean, that's just who we've known Steph. That's just who we've known Steph Curry to be his whole career. So, I mean, this off season's not over yet. Free agency is yet to start. And speaking of free agency, I know we have a couple of big name players in there. James Harden for one, Kyrie Irving. I mean, what do you guys think that teams are going to do here with these type of players? Let's start with James Harden. Where do you see him going? Back to Philadelphia or?
A sneaking suspicion that he is going to go back to Philadelphia. Maybe that's just me as a Rockets fan not wanting him to come back. I love everything he did for the city, but that is a big price tag on that man, and there's no reason we wouldn't pay him the big price tag. I believe we have the most money in the
$60 million
this year. Yeah, so I'm talking about the Houston Rockets, of course. So, but I think that money can be distributed way easier. I think Harden, it's between the Rockets and the Sixers. I don't think there's any other choice, but I believe he's going to stay with the Sixers, and I think they're willing to pay him. I think they're just fine doing that Embiid and Harden dynamic.
Yeah, when it comes to James Harden in Philadelphia, the most realistic sense is that he rejoins the Philadelphia 76ers. I would like to see him move because, I mean, we've already had crazy. We had Bradley Beal go to the Suns. We have Chris Paul now with the Warriors. I think I just like a little bit of chaos in my NBA. I just like a little bit of chaos.
Where
So
would you send him?
where would I send him? I mean, I
LA?
would send him back to y'all the Rockets, honestly, because that would that would not be the best. I don't think that'd be best for y'all. And I like to see the Rockets have a bad day here and there. So, but besides that, realistically, I think he signs back with the 76ers. I think him and Joel are a good duo. The thing is that we've seen it years and years and years. James Harden just has spots where he just doesn't show up in the playoffs, and that's the only thing that's something that no one else can help him with. That's just him and how he plays. So it's really up to him on that. But realistically, I see him with the 76ers again.
That's a fair take, and I know they were talking about it on ESPN yesterday, where they thought that the most realistic location scenario was between Houston and back to Philadelphia. Now, only thing about it, though, in Philadelphia, I believe they showcased his stats where he averaged less points this year in the regular season. James Harden averaged 21 points a game, and then it dropped down to 20 points per game in the playoffs. That's his lowest since 2012. Now, playing alongside the MVP, he led the league in assists, but his assists also dropped in the playoffs. So is that a winning formula for Philadelphia to bring him back despite coming up short early? Not even in the Eastern Conference Finals. That was the Eastern Conference semifinals.
I don't. I'm kind of with Giancarlo on this one. I believe the Sixers are going to pay him. I don't think he should get paid at all, or at least the money that he's going to be demanding. Because you're right, Thomas. He didn't show up in the playoffs, and he's had one of his worst seasons in a very long time. This guy is a guy who demands the ball. He was used to it in Houston. He went to Brooklyn and Philadelphia, and just wasn't the same guy in terms of dominating the game. I feel like he wasn't as scary of a threat to other teams as he was when he was in Houston. I don't believe he deserves to get paid the amount he's asking for. but I still think that they're going to do it because if you look at Philadelphia, I'm not really sure what their alternative options are. You know, they have that Embiid. They have Embiid for, I believe, a couple more years.
About
So,
2 years left on his deal there. Said he signed
yeah.
this deal.
So, I mean, unless they're willing to go for another big name, they don't really have any other options. And the East is going to be a very tough conference to win in the upcoming years.
Yeah, I'm glad you
Yeah,
said.
oh my bad.
Oh no, I was just saying. I'm glad you said that. Brought that up about the Eastern Conference. We cannot forget about the Milwaukee Bucks, who
Mhm.
lost in the first round, but they still have Giannis Antetokounmpo, best two-way player in the NBA currently. I mean, the Boston Celtics, they're not going anywhere. The Miami Heat, they're not going anywhere. And then you have up-and-coming teams like the Charlotte Hornets and LaMelo Ball, who are playing with a chip on their shoulder. You have, like we just talked about, Philadelphia, who's going to be in that mix. Brooklyn still has McCall Bridges and everything, even though they lost KD. David, you looking at me like that, man. I know you don't feel too high about the Brooklyn Nets, but I still think they're going to make some noise there. But go ahead, Giancarlo.
To answer your question about the 76ers and their winning situation, it's a flat out no. In my opinion, there's just no way that Joel, James Harden are gonna win the East, in my opinion. I feel like you center your team around Joel and you get him players that know how to feed him the ball. And James Harden's done a good job of adapting and getting assists to Joel Embiid. But you can see when James Harden doesn't have the ball, or when he's not at least a certain focal point, or for 1 quarter or 2 quarters, and he's not the offensive focal point, his effort is not there. His drive is not there. You could tell in his body language, and the man wants his money, but he needs to. I mean, you need to play for that money, and he plays the best that he can in the situation that he's in, I think. But there's just parts where he's a little lackluster and a little low energy, and just not giving it his all. Um, so I just don't think that the 76ers, and just like you said, with all these teams in the East, um, I just don't see them winning with a James Harden and Joel Embiid duo.
Yeah. And then you may, like I guess that we've all harped upon, you may not have a choice. You may have to give yourself the best fighting chance, to kind of put together the best team on paper and go out like that. But I mean, David, you've heard me talk about it before too, even on the last episode. I'm just not a big fan of tying up a whole bunch of money, just like we talked to Tatum, all for to lose inside of the finals, Eastern Conference Finals. Not a firm believer of that. But I want to talk about our favorite teams and maybe what our free agency plans, upcoming offseason plans are for all of them. So I'll go last with the Lakers because y'all know I have a lot to say about that. So the Spurs, Giancarlo, what do you see them having season?
Well,
What is the plan? Competitive?
The Spurs, well, they I think currently are number third in cap space, but I think with the Spurs, we don't really have to go for a big name. We don't have to really go for a huge star. You mean you hear the headlines with Damian Lillard and the Miami Heat. You hear, we had a bunch of trade news with big names like Chris Paul and Bradley Beal. But I think the Spurs just need to get good veteran guys, veteran players, vets that are there to help Wimby, because we have Tim Duncan coming back. We have Manu Ginobili coming back here and there to help him throughout the season, as it's been reported. But they're also not there in the locker room. They're not there during the games, and can help pinpoint what Wimby needs to do during a season. So I think the Spurs, really what they need to do is dedicate that money to getting veteran guys, veteran players that are going to help the young core of Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, Victor Wembanyama, Jeremy Shohan. So that's what I believe the Spurs need to do. Obviously, it'd be really cool to see if we got someone like a Damian Lillard, but I just don't think it's in the best interest of the Spurs long term. So yeah.
David?
I agree with you, Giancarlo. I don't think y'all necessarily need that big player right now because y'all aren't really trying to make a playoff push. If it happens organically, then that's good. But Yeah, I agree. I mean, maybe just a couple of veteran talents that don't take up too much money just to kind of guide the younger players. And I'd say for the Houston Rockets, my team, that I think we should go down a similar road. You know, it's been rebuilding for a while now, but in terms of what I want to happen, I think is a lot different than I think what is going to happen. I think what is going to happen is we're probably going to make a push for James Harden, try our best to go for the just because we have the money for a first time in a long time. But in terms of what I want to happen, I think we should distribute that money. I know I'm about to get the hate, but Dylan Brooks, uh,
Yo,
maybe Fred VanVleet, maybe a Brooke Lopez. I mean, these are guys, you know, that like have been able to slide into a team and make a difference, not necessarily as the guy, but just a glue. And y'all are sleeping on Dylan Brooks because his defense otherworldly. You can't compare him. You can't. It's unfair to rate his defense based on how he guarded LeBron James in a playoff series. I really don't think that's fair because I think if we did that with anybody else, or if we did that with everybody, I think everybody would be a bad defense. Anyways, I'm getting off track, but that's what I think the Houston Rockets should do.
That's fair, but Dylan, under no circumstances, Brooks is what I like to call him because I've never seen that from an organization say that under no circumstances you will bring a player back. But I agree with you, David. I think it was kind of blown out of proportion. Dylan Brooks is still, he's an above average basketball player to me, and he can be a help or a contributor to a championship team as a 3-and-D player. His shot selection is a little bit questionable, but under the right coaching staff and everything, under the right tutelage with different players, you can see him kind of fix that and everything. But to talk about the Lakers, I mean, oh man. First round, I mean, first of all, we weren't even supposed to make the playoffs. It took an unreal push by the front office to acquire those players, D'Angelo Russell, Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt. And we ended up making the playoffs as the 7th seed after the play-in tournament and everything. Won the first round, won the second round against Golden State, and then swept against the Denver Nuggets, who eventually won it all. So I think it was a respectable season. Losing in the Western Conference Finals with this team, that had to have been the ceiling all along. But for the offseason plans, I don't see us targeting a big star like Damian Lillard. I mean, the Lakers tax exists. It costs considerably more for the Lakers to trade for big name players. Kyrie Irving, I do not think we will get him, although I do like the prospect of him, LeBron, and AD. I just don't think it's feasible to make the money work. So all in all, I see the Lakers, like Rob Pelinka actually said yesterday in the press conference, running it back. I see that team coming together, and hopefully with a training camp, preseason, and a full season to actually work together and mesh, they might actually be able to make some noise. Jared Vanderbilt, one of the underrated defensive players in the league right now. D'Angelo Russell, he got a lot of hate for everything that he did. He got some hate from me as a salty fan, but, trying to be unbiased and everything. D'Angelo Russell is still a top 10 point guard in today's game. And I do believe being able to play without the ball and being a good shooter or above average shooter, he will work well with LeBron. If I could bring in one free agent, though, it's funny. It would actually also be Dylan Brooks. He brings the tenacity and the fire to a team, where it's just like a no back down approach. And that's something that you want every team to have, that Draymond Green-esque type, tough player. So if the Rockets don't get him, I'm hoping the Lakers get him, and hopefully they can make some noise and try to compete for that 18th championship.
Well, I got a question, Thomas. Do you think that, you talk about not making any crazy moves? I'm assuming you're still going to want to fill in some pieces that are going to need work through a long season. But do you think that team with a full season, like you said, can beat the Denver Nuggets?
I do. I do think they'll be able to compete because even though we got swept, every single one of those games were winnable. They were close. There were no blowouts in those games. And I know being swept is a terrible thing. Trust me, I get it. But being in a position to have won game 4, game 3, game 1, and game 2, to be honest, yeah, we had an opportunity to win all of those games. And Denver just executed better through the clutch situations. And I think that was because they had been together, they knew each other, they trusted each other, battle tested throughout the regular season, and they knew the game plan. You know, they knew how to execute down the stretch, whereas this team was really just, they were playing on borrowed time. The Lakers, that is, playing on borrowed time from trade deadline. Every game from the trade deadline was a must-win game. You're exerting yourself to the fullest. You're running out of energy and everything, and that's just what we saw, you know, in the playoffs there, where they played good for 30 or 40, 42 minutes, and then the last 6 minutes, that's where they will fall apart. So I'm thinking, you know, with that full season under their belt, they'll probably be able to make some noise. And if not, the trade deadline next year, you might see some more moves there. Who knows?
Okay.
Yeah. So
I'm gonna sound like Charles Barkley right now. Why are we talking about the Lakers? Can we not talk about the Lakers?
I feel like it always ends up turning to the Lakers because they're like
It always turns to the Lakers.
they're like the Yankees of the NBA or like the Cowboys of the NFL. It always ends up going.
Yeah.
speaking of the Yankees, I know y'all witnessed history yesterday. I mean, did any of y'all follow the game at all?
I got the notification from a YouTuber I watch. His name's Light Talk Studios. Good guy. Slept on. Anyways, he said Yankees perfect game going on. I was like, perfect game. That's crazy. I mean, 27 up, 27 down. That is absolutely nuts. A no-hitter is crazy enough. And I mean, I just turned it on. I despise the Yankees. You know, I shouldn't really. I'm an Astros fan. We are literally their dad. They give us presents for Father's Day every year. But the Yankees, I really don't like them. But I had to watch it. Perfect game. That's history. That's not going to happen for a while, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's only the 24th perfect game in MLB history, 4th by Yankees player Domingo German. I mean, what can we say? That was just elite. Giancarlo?
I wasn't following it. I think I was watching a WNBA game because, I'm basketball all the way. But I did see the notifications. I always have the MLB stuff on my ESPN app. So I was following it. Then I watched it this morning and just seeing there's a lot of close calls, though, where he could have got someone could have got on base. But the Yankees really – that's the thing about baseball that I really appreciate is that everyone's got each other's back. And you always got the pitcher's back. And just to see that how he did it and the way that the team executed, I mean, the Yankees are pretty good. They got a pretty good roster. Of course, I know Aaron Judge is got some injury issues right now, but I did hear on ESPN every time that the Yankees have had no hitter, they've won the World Series that year. Ooh. So I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm just laying down the facts. We'll let history do the rest.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, congratulations to Domingo German again. 99 pitches thrown, 72 strikes, 9 strikeouts, no hits, no walks. That's just perfection, perfect game. And with that, we would like to call that a perfect ending to our podcast today, Claws to the Wall podcast. We hope that you enjoyed today's episode, and we will be back. We will be back. So don't fret. Don't worry. You'll be able to see us and hear us again sometime later on. But for now, I'm Thomas Terry alongside with
Castaneda
and Giancarlo Cacho.
Wishing you all a great evening. Try to stay cool and everything, and we'll see you guys later.
Hello? You play to win the game.